11 QUT Law and Justice students recently travelled to Vanuatu for 2 weeks to learn about access to justice issues. This involved working with the Pacific Islands Legal Information Institute and legal clinic students from the Emalus Campus of the University of the South Pacific, as well as partaking in various cultural experiences and learning about climate change and LGBTI members in Vanuatu. The QUT students spent a large portion of the trip working with and getting to know the USP students. This involved discussions centred around cultural and legal differences, such as LGBTI, religion, human rights, impacts of customary law, women's rights, climate change, and police involvement. As part of this, the QUT students were split amongst the USP students to present on 3 topics to the local police and local LGBTI members. The QUT students' role in this area was to facilitate discussion with the audience and explain the Australian context as a comparison point.
The first presentation centred on human rights, in which the development of human rights was discussed, and the current issues for improvement were highlighted. The second presentation focused on discrimination, stigma, and stereotypes in Vanuatu. This presentation was heavily focused on cultural discrimination issues, which were able to be compared to the Australian context. Finally, the students also presented on the rule of law and access to justice issues, particularly in relation to the local police force. It became evident that many of the access to justice issues in Vanuatu were similar to those in Australia, including poverty, those living in rural areas, and corruption.
QUT students learnt about the environmental impacts of climate change in Vanuatu. There was recently a climate change protest in Vanuatu where locals have called for global action in fighting climate change. The South Pacific Islands are on the forefront of climate change effects and are leading the fight. The impacts of rising sea levels, island erosion, death of coral reefs, rapid growth of the coconut rhinoceros beetles, and strict plastic ban are just some of the prominent climate change effects currently impacting the Pacific Islands.
You are the heroes this planet needs right now. Keep fighting with all your energy. Humanity's future depends on you.
The students heard from Inez, the chairlady of the Sania Village Council on Mosso Island, and her plans to develop a reef rehabilitation centre, including the already expanding CLAM project.
The QUT students were warmly welcomed by the Port Vila locals, who operate on the notion of island time, a concept which soon became familiar to the students. The students immersed themselves in the local cuisine, trying various dishes at the Port Vila markets, and even trying kava, a traditional drink of the Pacific Islands.
The students learnt of the hard work being carried out by Oxfam Vanuatu, who are strongly advocating for the equal representation of men and women in the Vanuatu Parliament. With the 2020 Vanuatu election on the horizon, we had the privilege of attending the launch of the Vote Women campaign and calling for the equal representation of women and men in Parliament.
Pride is a community-based group founded in Port Vila in 2009, which was set up to help advocate for the rights of the LGBTIQ community and other minority groups. Pride continued to work with the community, advocating for STI prevention and promoting awareness of the issues surrounding stigma and discrimination.
A significant part of the study tour was spent learning about the various barriers to accessing justice in the Pacific, one of which is the inaccessibility of legal information. The QUT students were given an opportunity to help alleviate this inaccessibility by creating subject libraries for the Pacific Islands Legal Information Institute website.
The PACLII website is an online database containing the legislation, cases, and other secondary materials for Pacific Island countries. The students created libraries which covered the areas of family law and employment and labour law for selected Pacific Islands including Vanuatu, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Fiji, Cook Islands, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, and Kiribati.
In conclusion, this international placement was an invaluable opportunity to learn how access to justice issues manifest themselves within different jurisdictions. This allowed us to reflect upon the similar and different presentations of these issues within Australia. However, more than a chance to learn, this was a chance to action strategies to ameliorate the barriers to justice within Vanuatu. We would like to thank QUT and our supervising teacher Paul Perovich for this invaluable experience. We would encourage future students to participate for a chance to learn, make friends, and expand your understanding of international legal challenges.